You guys have been asking for it. We're making more YouTube videos. Come along with us and Filardi Fabrication while we install a 44x55 and this Fleetwood. We're going to start by removing the headliner out of the vehicle. Every vehicle is just a little bit different, so your install will absolutely vary. Most cars you're going to have to remove the A, B, C pillars in order to gain access to the headliner and remove it. Go ahead and take your time, don't break the clips, and go ahead and get it out. Now that Anthony has watched our unboxing tips and tricks video and laid out his top, ensured all the parts are ready to roll and everything's included, he's ready to start the install on this top. Starting the install on this top, we're going to go ahead and pull the interior out of this car. Every vehicle is set up just a little bit different, so yours is obviously going to vary. After we got the headliner pulled out and ready to start the install, we're going to go ahead and lay tape out on the roof. The reason why we do so much tape on the roof is to ensure there's no mistakes. If a saw gets away from you or you mess up, you just have a little extra cushion. This also allows you a great place to make any measurements, mark center, and then kind of use it as your notepad while you're squaring up the top and getting it ready to be installed. While we're taping the roof out, we use this as a great opportunity to go ahead and kind of get an idea of the top center line. Left to right, front to back, how's it going to look in orientation to the roof? Obviously, you want to make sure that the top is not too far forward, because if the top's too far forward, you're going to run into leak issues. You should always have a good 3 or 4 inches in front of the top to ensure that it seals and latches and doesn't allow any leakage. Now that we've got the roof taped off and ready to start our install, Anthony's going to go ahead and lay out the frame, assemble it in order to take rough dimensions. This is where your top will vary. Depending on the width and the length of the top that you ordered, your frame dimensions are going to change. Our video is based on a 44x55 and our instructions are based on a 40x40. However, you can use a good rule of thumb of the top being 4 inches narrower and 3 inches shorter for your cut hole size. If you need to verify that, installing the frame now and remeasuring it off of your frame specifically will allow you to get those measurements correct. With the frame fully assembled and laid out, this is a great time to double check if you're starting the top too far forward or too far back. Take into account the top needs to seal on the roof. You also want to try to avoid any compound curves. Setting the top too far forward gets into the double radius of where the roof curves off towards the windshield as well as the doors. Those compound curves make it really hard for the top to seal. You may need to fudge the top back or forth an eighth, a quarter, half inch to get it centered and looking correctly. After we've taken our rough measurements, we went ahead and disassembled the frame. We often get the question of what do these corners do? They are in our unboxing tips and tricks video, but also shown again here. This will be used after the top is installed in the vehicle to square and support the corners inside the car. They will go underneath the roof sheet metal and sandwich the sheet metal of the roof to the frame. Went ahead and removed the frame off the top. Now we're going to start taking a bunch of measurements. This is where you'll use your diligence to center the top. Everything needs to be symmetrical, side to side, front to back. So use lots of different points to verify your measurements. You can never measure too much. Continuing with the measurements, what we're marking now is the overall size of our cut hole. We're going to take a couple rough marks. That way we can center it out and square it up front to back. You may notice that we dropped tape down the center of the roof. The reason we did that is obviously to find the center. Measuring side to side, front to back, we're going to mark the center at the front and the center at the back. You'll see here in a couple seconds where Anthony's drug a string down the center of the roof. This allows us to go ahead and make sure front to back everything is symmetrical. Having laid out the rough marks front and back on the sides, we're going to now go ahead and use a straight edge to connect those 2 points. Hopefully you've got them very close to where they need to be, as this will eventually be your reference point to cut. Double checking our length measurements, we'll mark the front and back starting points to continue the process we just did on the front and the rear. After we verify the front and rear placement, we'll cross measure. Cross measuring ensures that we drew a square. Obviously that's important when you're putting a square in a roof. Now's when we'll mark out the corners. What we usually do is drill about a ½ inch hole in all 4 corners. This will allow you to drop the saw into and cut both angles without having to cut square corners. It's never a good idea to leave the corner square, as it could actually tear the roof skin. Rounded corners are much stronger and prevent issues down the road. As you may have noticed, this car actually has a canvas top on it. Some people call them a phantom top. So what Anthony's going to go ahead and do now is cut down our original drawn lines to remove the center section of the canvas top. These tops are easy to install into vehicles with canvas tops. There's just a few extra steps involved in it. Obviously, if you don't have a canvas top, you can skip these steps. With the center of the canvas removed, this exposes essentially the raw roof. Obviously, this car has a fiberglass layer because of the canvas top. Your car would just have a standard sheet metal roof at this point. Using the holes that we've already drilled in the corners allows you for a place to drop in the saw. You'll be able to cut in both directions from that point with relative ease. Most roof skins are a single layer. However, some vehicles like OBS crew cab dualies, OBS Suburbans, and a few others, C10s, have a double layer sheet metal roof. Now's the point when you would actually need to mark the inner sheet metal roof and cut that out first. That will actually need to be bigger than your hole size. It can be a little tricky to figure out. Give us a call, we'll get you through that part. We'll go ahead and continue here with just a standard install in a single layer roof. We choose to use a jigsaw with a bimetal blade. This allows us greater control as well as speed control in our cut. We're able to get really nice precision cuts. You can also use an air-powered body saw or a death wheel. However, sparks, flying metal, interior, not always a great idea. Using a jigsaw controls the mess traditionally on the roof and allows you the best control. Anthony has some really cool little tools that he uses to make these installs go along really smoothly. As you can see, this little clamp helps hold the roof skin in place while he's cutting to keep it from bouncing over. In a moment, you'll notice where he uses a piece of flat stock to support the corners he's already cut out to keep the roof skin from falling inside the car. Controlling the center of the roof skin while you cut it will ensure that you get a better straight cut the first time. It's a good idea, if possible, to remove the front and rear seats. You don't have to, but doing so allows you to drop a big liner in here to make sure that any metal shavings are contained. Now with the hole cut out, we'll go ahead and start laying the frame into that opening. This is going to be the initial steps to allow us to mock up and mark for all the holes that need to be drilled. Take your time with clamping it down, ensuring that you're not rushing. A lot of roofs that we ship will have relief cuts in the side. The relief cuts are going to help the roof form to the curve that it naturally has. This is the point when you will start to form the side of the frame to match your roof. The tracks will try to hold the top from bending, but with gentle pressure, you'll get it to form. One of our tips and tricks to laying out the frame is base on your center of the front and base it on your center of the rear. Once you mark the front and rear frames for center it with the marks you made for the center of your roof skin and start with those points. Spring clamps work really well to keep things from moving around. Once you have everything clamped in place, this is where you'll take the time to square everything up. A simple T-square and a measuring tape will ensure the top is square front to back, left to right, and crossways. The difference is in the details. I know I keep saying that, but it really is all in the install. The more time you take to ensure the frame fits well, the better your results will be. It's a giant hole in your roof. Let's do it right. Once you have the top squared and everything's looking great, this is where you'll mark your holes. What we recommend is using a Sharpie through the hole in the side frames to mark the roof. I do not recommend drilling it with the top in place, just so you have better control. If you're not confident in doing that, you can drill through the frame. Now with the frame removed, we went ahead and drilled all of our marks. Starting first with a small pilot hole is a great way to do it. The hardware we use is a 1032, so a number 11 or similar drill bit will be ideal. You can go a little bit larger than the stud to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. Giving yourself that little bit of wiggle room will help when we go to square the top and ensure the tracks are running parallel. By the tracks running parallel is what's going to help us allow the top to slide back and forth easier without it binding in the middle. Now we're going to start bolting the frame loosely into the vehicle. This is when we'll use the corner irons that are going to mount on the inside of the roof that sandwich it all together. Those corner irons are going to hold the four corners of the top and allow us to get it square at the corners and nice and tight. We prefer to start with the front. By starting in the front and working our way to the rear, we're able to gently massage the side rails to match the curve of the roof, bolting it in as we go. Before we fully tighten the frame in, we'll go ahead and verify nothing's moved. This is a great time to double check your measurements front to back, left to right, off of your original reference points to ensure that everything is still square and where you expect it to be. Now with the top bolted in, we'll go ahead and take a measurement of the front and the back track widths. You'll notice the middle of your tracks may have bowed in or bowed out. That is very common at this point because of the curvature of the roof. The top naturally wants to hourglass in. These measurements are important because if the tracks do not run parallel to each other, the top will bind up and not want to slide easily front to back. Taking the measurement in the center and ensuring it matches the front and back allows us a quick, easy change now. Simply loosen the clinch studs, push the top in or out as needed, and retighten. Ideally, you want the tracks to run almost exactly parallel from the very front all the way through to the very back. You've probably been wondering how you're going to get the top in the frame now that it's installed. Good news is it's actually pretty simple. What you'll do, starting in the rear of the top, is unbolt the track from the frame. Usually you can get away with going about halfway down the top, which will allow the tracks to kind of spring up. With the tracks up in the rear, we will load the top in that way. So the glides will actually just slide straight down the tracks, working from a back to forward orientation. Don't get too frustrated. They fight you a little bit. Take the time, they'll slide right in. Once you've got all the glides slid down the side tracks, with the top still loose, go ahead and tighten the track back up. You'll notice the rear of the top has studs already attached to it. This is where we'll bolt these down through the roof. The studs will stick through the frame into your roof skin and attach in the same method as the corner irons do. As you've got the top slid into the roof, if it's still not sliding back and forth 100% smoothly, or you need to center it up just a little bit better, this is the adjustments you can make. By removing the two outer tension knobs allows you to fold the top backwards and expose this inner header channel. As you'll notice on the outside edges, there's a lot of adjustment in there. This allows you to have the adjustment to center the header left to right in your vehicle specifically. We do take the time to center this on the table when assembling the top, but in the real world, things do change. After you've centered the header left to right, it's a good time to check to make sure you have a little bit of play from the inside of the car in a left to right motion. If everything's moving freely with a little bit of distance there, you know you're on the right track and you can go ahead and put the knobs back on and finish up the install. If you ordered your top with the sewn-in headliner, which I highly recommend because it looks a lot nicer, this is where we'll attach the rear material that's hanging loose inside the car. What you'll do is simply unbolt the rear of the cap, fold it forward, and allows you to pull the headliner tight and then drop in the headliner strip. We do go over this in detail in our tips and tricks video, so these will work hand in hand together to get you through all those steps. Now with the frame, top, and everything snug down and tightened, it's time to close the top and admire your work. Ensuring the tracks were measured out and running parallel to each other, the top should slide back and forth with relative ease. The bigger the top, the harder it'll be to open and close, but you should roughly be able to do it easily with one or two hands without much effort. When opening your top, it's best to take some extra time, ensure the pleats are nicely stacked, tuck the headliner up in the pleats. It looks a whole lot nicer going down the road, and it just shows you take pride and care in what you've done. We get this question all the time. How does this handle go in? Good news is it's pretty easy. You'll install the jam nut first, thread it onto the latch. You don't want to touch the nylock. The nylock is preset tension. It can be adjusted if you need to change it on the latch, but it has no effect on the handle. The jam nut goes on first, then the star washer, and then the handle. A lot of people think that the little button in the center is a screw. It's not. It's literally just a button to help you index the handle in any position so it looks good when it's closed. After you have those three parts stacked in that order, jam nut, star washer, handle, you'll double nut them together. Double nutting it is threading the handle all the way against the star washer, taking your wrench on the nut, and then moving them in the opposite direction to tighten them against each other. All right, it's time to get this deal pulled outside. Let's take a look at it with the top open, find out why we all went through this work, and enjoy the ride. Big body Cadillacs are cool on spokes, but they're a whole lot cooler with a ragtop. Now even the homies in the backseat get the view. Here's a great time for us to thank you for your order. We appreciate your business, appreciate you sticking with us, putting a cool ragtop in your car, letting us come and be a part of your project. It really means a lot to us. If you don't mind, we'd love to see pictures of your ride. shoot us an email or a live chat, or just tag us in your YouTube video of yourself cruising. We love to share that content. And if you have any questions during any of this process, just give us a call, 866-409-8673. We'll be there to help you Monday through Friday.